Hello, everyone. I apologize for not being with you and having to record a video. I am going to be attending services for my grandfather during our class time. So, in this video, I'll be covering a bit of what we were going to be doing during class, and we'll catch up whatever I miss when I return to class with you on Thursday. We are in Unit 2 now, so I'm going to pull up the Unit 2 schedule and just look at it very quickly with you. For today's class, the plan is to cover Essay 1 Introduction and Essay Organization. I'll be doing that a bit in this video. And then starting on Thursday, we'll pick up with MLA formatting and probably finish the essay organization a bit more. So very quickly, I'm going to open up the Essay 1 instructions. Now, I call this the choice essay. I also call it Essay 1, and at one point, I think I probably called it your evidence essay. Yeah, see, it's just Essay 1 at this point. So, the instructions are pretty straightforward and very helpful, I think. It says write an essay of at least 700 words, so it's a short essay, in which you utilize compare and contrast, cause and effect, definition, or classification or division to explain the topic of your choice. So, what that means is that you will be able to write pretty much whatever you want about whatever you want. I may have one student writing a compare and contrast essay where they're comparing and contrasting Batman and Superman. And then I may have another essay writing from another student trying to define success. Or I may have someone else writing a cause and effect essay about the effects of overeating, right? So those are all possible topics. So that's up to you. You could use the chapter from your book that talks about that genre, and I will be going through, if you look at the schedule that we have set up on Blackboard, I closed it out already. The schedule includes, we're going to have a day where I'll talk about compare and contrast essays. We'll have another day where I'll be talking about cause and effect essays, and so on. So I am not just throwing you to the wolves here, but I do want you guys to get a good idea of what we're doing. So we'll be covering each of these in class and how to make it look. I do have some quick sort of run-throughs on each one. Compare and contrast is obviously when you're comparing and contrasting two things. It's actually more tricky than you think, though, because we're so familiar with, you guys probably remember the Venn diagram with the two circles that overlap. And you write things about one thing in one side, things about the other thing in the other side, and in the middle you put things that they both have in common. Well, that's a great way to get started for that particular essay, but we're going to advance it a bit and make it academic, college level work. Cause and effect, you've probably done that before also, but again, we're going to make sure that it's college level work and that it follows the structure that will help us to make it happen like that. Classification and division. The most easy one that we can think of, honestly, is the classification of animals and how we classify vertebrates and invertebrates and how we break those down into smaller groups. And eventually we get down to the genus and the species and all of that. I'm not asking you to write that essay. That's way too big. But we will be talking about classification and division and how that helps us and how you can write about it in your essays. Definition is not just Webster's dictionary, and I say Webster's Google, right? It's not just what Google says. Because you think about different words like, for example, success. The way we define success is probably very different from how someone else might define success. A very poor person who has no money and lives on the street may define success very differently from a very wealthy person who can eat caviar and sardines for lunch. So definitions matter. And the Google definition is just so straightforward. It's oftentimes not good enough and it's lacking. So that's where definition essays come in. I will be working with you in the future to go through how to find your topic. I'll be giving you all kinds of ideas as we talk through these of what your topic might look like. I will suggest right now that every time that you get an idea for a topic, write it down. Don't just trust your brain to remember it, because our brains do 10,000 other things every day. Write it down and keep it with you. So anytime you get an idea, write it down. Have in the coming classes, I want you to have something to write with and have yourself ready to write during class, because you will have ideas for essays and I want you to write them down. You will need a thesis statement, and we are going to talk about thesis statements a lot in this section and what those look like and why. For this class, I am asking for extremely structured thesis statements. Later on, you can have fun with them, but right now we need structure. So we're going to be doing that. I have a suggested organization because you'll need an introduction, your thesis statement, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And that's how most essays are structured. I have reminders, things that you need to read, like no exclamation marks, no sarcasm. And then I have an example, and these examples for this particular essay are not professional examples. These essays actually came from, I think there's 3 of them. There's there's three sample essays, and all 3 of them came from students in my class that were very successful and did very well. Now, these essays are not perfect. You will probably find maybe even a spelling error or a sentence structure error. They are not perfect essays. They are just good. Okay. So, and I do that for a reason, because I want you to know what a good essay looks like. These are students. They're not professionally written or something like that. These are my students who have done this same assignment and done very well with it. So there's the instructions and what that looks like. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to actually pull up a paint, because I want you guys to think about a couple of things, because I said I would talk about organization, and I will probably much more when I return to class with you on Thursday. But easy way to think about your structure, your organization for your essay, is that you have to have an introduction. Okay, that's usually a paragraph. And at the end of your introduction, it has a thesis statement. And then you have body paragraphs. Let's see, introduction with a thesis. Body paragraphs. Body paragraphs usually have point 1 and then explanation of or examples of that point. No. Oh, I did it. And then point 2 with explanation. Why not? We'll just have it both look wonky. And then body 3 and body 4, body 2 and 3 that repeat. So in every body paragraph, you have at least 2 points and some explanation or examples of those points. And that's a really great way to go. And then at the very end, you have a conclusion. All right. Now, let's talk for a moment really quickly about what goes in each of these. Again, your introduction does not just start off with, here's what I'm talking about, right? That would be the equivalent of walking up to someone who is in a totally different conversation and saying something totally off the wall that they don't even know why you're talking about it. And I'm sure we've experienced that in group settings, but it's very off-putting, right? When you're having a conversation and then someone else walks up and they say, I think that Batman is the best superhero, right? And they just interrupted your conversation with this. Like, why? Okay, so let's have in your introduction, the purpose of the introduction is to orient your reader and to give them a reason. Here's why we're talking about this subject. So you may instead start with something like maybe a fun fact, like the movie Batman grossed twice as much as the movie Superman in theaters in 2001 or whenever it was published. Anything to get us there, right? Batman was the first comic to reach the shelves, or Superman, I don't remember which. And I mean, you can just start with a number of different interesting things to get us into the topic. And that's what the introduction is designed to do. Body paragraphs are designed to support your thesis. And we're going to again talk about the thesis much more later, but the thesis is the main idea, right? It's here's what I'm going to be talking about. Body paragraphs serve the point of proving whatever it is you're talking about. So in order to prove whatever it is you're talking about, you need to have points about those topics and examples and explanations about those points. So it's kind of like threefold. You have an explanation of a point that helps to prove the body, which helps to prove the thesis. You have an explanation of point two, which helps to prove the body, which helps to prove the thesis. So it kind of helps. It's all tied in together. Finally, conclusions serve a very important purpose because they tell your reader when you're done. Conclusions, you can do three things in a conclusion. Number one, you can summarize. Here's everything I just talked about. And that's really a great strategy, especially in longer papers, because by the time your reader has read 10 or 12 pages, they've probably forgotten what your point was. So go back to it, summarize. Yeah. Number two, your conclusion can ask your reader to do something or to think a certain way. So let's say I've told you all about the effects of smoking a cigarette. Now I want you to quit. Or now I want the cigarette companies to make it illegal, or whatever it is you want. So asking your reader to do something or to think a certain way. Okay. The third, that's called a call to arms. That's called a call to arms. The third possibility for a conclusion, which is probably not going to happen very much in ours, but happen much more often in much longer essays, is you can propose further research. Like, my essay didn't get to cover this point, but more research could be done to help with that. And that's usually a very, very advanced move in academic writing, but I did want you guys to know that it is a possibility. You can suggest further research. That's a possibility in your conclusion. Okay, that's all I wanted to cover in this particular video. Now I'm going to give you a short assignment. Your assignment is, let me see. Well, no, I'm just going to leave it here. Excuse me. Your assignment, ready, is to email or text me one one potential topic that you might consider for your essay. Now, that does not mean that this is the topic you will use. All it means is that you understood what I talked about in this video when I went through the instructions for the essay. I even gave you some examples as I was speaking, so you can use those. All I want is for you to tell me in this way that you understood the instructions and what we're going to be doing. So one potential topic that you might consider for your essay at this point in time. Remember that your essay could be compare, contrast, cause, effect, classification, division, or definition. So what word, is there a word that you think you might want to define in an essay? Is there two things that you can think of that you might want to compare and contrast in an essay? Is there something cause and effect that you might want to explore in an essay, right? Or is there something that you can think of that you might need classification and division of in an essay? Actually, I had a genius one last week or last semester that was a young lady classifying and dividing the roles of the restaurant where she worked. So she talked about the manager team. She talked about the part-time people, the full-time people, the morning crew, and the evening crew, and the differences between their classifications. So those become really important when you're talking about or different types of managerial approaches. Those would need to be classified and divided. Totally possible there. Okay, so that is your assignment for today. Text or email me one potential topic that you might consider for your essays. Don't expect a response because it is very likely I will have my phone on silent. But I will get those. It is for a grade. It will be added to the grade book. It's either pass or fail. Email or text me one potential topic that you might consider for your essay. Again, does not have to be the essay that you're going to write. Just shows me that you watched the video. All right, folks, I appreciate your time and I will see you on Thursday.